Well, good morning, folks. Thank you for joining us again for another FieldView Focus webinar. Today we're talking all about that data, and I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Valerie Sled. To start off, I want to give a little bit of a housekeeping announcement so that you understand a little bit about our webinar process. So through WebEx, you have a number of different ways to get value out of this webinar by providing us with your questions or comments throughout our session together. At the bottom of your screen, you should see a chat box button. It looks like a little chat bubble. You can click on that and that will show you the chat box to post any questions or comments to myself, other panelists on the call this morning, or to other participants. There's also a Q&A box as well. And if you do not see that on the right side of your screen, you can click on the three dots at the bottom of your screen, and that will display the Q&A button to click in order to see that as well in your right panel. And so with that, I'm going to introduce a little bit more about who's also on the call this morning in our webinar. Like I said, my name is Valerie Sled, and I'm new to the team here with Climate Learning and Development. With me this morning, we have two incredible speakers from the field who really provide some incredible value to our organization, and certainly will be enriching your understanding of data management this morning. First, we have Seth Smoot. He is a climate activation manager in Northern Indiana. He's been with Climate FieldView for over 6 years now. He grew up on a family farm operation in Eaton, Indiana, and he currently lives in Greensburg with his wife and two kids. And he also farms with his father-in-law on their row crop farm and cattle operation. And Seth's going to be referencing a lot of real life examples this morning that I think you'll really appreciate. We also have Carl Butenhoff, and Carl also grew up on a cattle crop operation in southeastern Minnesota. He attended the University of Minnesota and received his bachelor's and master's degrees in plant breeding and biotechnology. Carl spent the last 5 years working alongside growers in Iowa as a technical agronomist for Channel, and he recently moved into a field product specialist role covering Minnesota and Wisconsin. And once again, both gentlemen this morning provide a wealth of knowledge and wisdom regarding data management. And so we'll be talking all about that data with them here shortly. So Seth, I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to you. You can get us started talking this morning.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Valerie. Like Valerie said, my name is Seth Smoot, Climate Activation Manager covering our Northern Indiana geography. So welcome to the call this morning. Appreciate you taking the time to join us and learn a little bit more about how you can be utilizing Climate FieldView in your operation to analyze your data and make some decisions off of it. And so I'm going to spend a little time here for the first 20-25 minutes or so, just kind of going through and get you thinking about what are some ways that you can be using FieldView to analyze your data. And then as we move on through, Carl's going to walk us through the different ways in which we can get data into the platform. And like, if you got questions, feel free to shoot those in, and we'll pause throughout and take some time for those questions as well. But as we get started, I really kind of like to kick it off with what you see on the screen here in terms of what I would call these three value pillars of what we're trying to help you accomplish with Climate FieldView. The very first one is going to be all of your data in one place. And so what do we mean by that? And so when we start to think about all your data in one place, that can be, traditionally planting data, yield data, soil type, soil test information. But it doesn't just stop there. You got to start thinking about application data, whether that's fertilizer, whether that's fungicides, herbicides, really just trying to be able to track any of that information and have it in a central point to be able to make decisions off of. And then I think it also involves your trusted advisor data, right? So if you've got trusted advisors who are out there in your field scouting for you and helping you make decisions on a daily basis on your farm, giving them a central place to be able to see, hey, what hybrid or variety is planted in this particular field, or what were the chemical products applied, or some of that information to be able to use when making scouting recommendations and notes as we move forward in the season. So it all kind of starts there. And the second piece, which is what I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on, is the simplified field insights piece. And so really starting to understand hey, once my data is in, what are some of the easy to use tools that we have that you'll hear me reference? So, kind of along those lines, what we call yield analysis and field region report. Going to dive in and show you a couple examples there. And that third piece is optimizing seeding and fertility, or basically in a nutshell, hey, how do I take my data and start to make better decisions? So whether that's with fertilizer recs, whether that's with seeding recs, could be as simple as, hey, what products performed well this year that I see an ROI on and I want to use moving forward? Or simply hybrid and variety product placement. What did we learn in 2019 that we could use in 2020? Or what are we going to learn in 2020 that we can use in 2021 to make better decisions across the operation? And so really just trying to give you an idea of what are some ways that we can put your data to work for you. Now, as we go through the platform, just kind of an overview of what to expect. So as we go from left to right across the screen, for those of you that can see it, the very first thing we're going to have is what I would call is just the FieldView app. It's a black icon with a yellow F. You can get this in any iOS device, so that would be iPad or iPhone. You can also get it on Android devices as well. So for those of you with Android, this would be the mobile app that you would utilize. And so once your data is into FieldView, whether it comes through what we call data inbox and it's manually uploaded, or if you stream it into FieldView through the FieldView Cab app, which I'll talk about in a minute, this would be a central point for you to come and kind of have access to that data. And so quick access to rainfall. I know over the last week and a half, 2 weeks, as we've had some cells move through our farm, it's been pretty spotty and pretty variable. I was working a field the other day, and literally I could look a half mile to the south of me and it was pouring, but where I was at, not raining at all. So those instances where, especially this time of year when we're trying to get field work done, being able to come in and look at updated information in terms of rainfall by field can be pretty valuable. Then we'll have some things like our in-season field health imagery, and then as we move into harvest yield analysis, which, like I said, I'll talk about in more detail here in a few minutes to kind of give you an overview of what that yield analysis looks like. Then as we move to the middle of the screen, you'll notice climate.com. And this is going to be where you would create an account. This is where you would place orders. This is where you'd share your account with trusted advisors. And then Carl's going to talk a little bit more about data upload. So data upload would occur here. Any fixing of data that you might need to do, so whether that's changing hybrid or variety names, reassigning to different fields, all of that would take place on the desktop version of climate.com, or I guess I should say web-based, done through your desktop computer. And then over on the right-hand side of the screen, the in-cab experience. So I referenced the FieldView Cab app. The FieldView Cab app is our avenue of data collection for streaming. And so this is an iOS app only. And so you can get it on your iPad or your iPhone. Now, the iPhone version is basically view only, so it is not able to collect data. But once your data is in the system, you can utilize the functionality of the Cab app on your phone as well, too. But the iPad version then would either connect to a Precision Planning 2020 or a FieldView Drive in order to collect that data live in the cab, and then wirelessly stream that up into your FieldView account, so you've got that information in there. And so we'll talk a little bit more about some of that stuff as we move through, but did want to give you a platform overview. Now, this is something Carl's going to dive in a little bit more, but just to kind of set the stage of what are the different ways I can get my data in. I'd mentioned the Precision Planning 2020 and the FieldView Drive as avenues to stream your data from the cab. And then as we kind of go around this flywheel, you've got data inbox, which is, hey, I'm using Ag Leader, got all my data in Ag Leader. I can pull that USB stick out of the monitor and I can upload that data into FieldView. Then you kind of move around, you get down to John Deere Operations Center. So if your data is coming from your cab up into Ops Center, we can bring that data over. And then manual layer creation, drive map, anything. Those are some options as we start to get into some equipment that maybe traditionally isn't able to collect spatial data, but you're wanting to document tillage passes or certain planter passes or applications that maybe you haven't been able to in the past. Those are some options we have to be able to get some of that data in as well. But Carl will talk a little bit more about that here in a bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually switch over to my iPad. As Valerie mentioned, helping my father on our family farm and then also growing up on one. When I talk about how to use FieldView, I really like to show examples from our farm, and so I think it's a practical way just to help you understand and get you thinking about ways that you might be able to use FieldView on your farm. And so what you see here, as I switch over to my iPad, this is in what we would call the FieldView Cab app. So just to show you what that home screen looks like there again. And so I'm going to jump in. So down here in this lower right-hand corner, you'll see where it says analysis. And so analysis is really kind of that central point of where you can come in and get reports for your operation throughout the growing season. And so that can be anything from planting to application to yield data to weather data. A really centralized place to come in and look at some of that information by field. And so as we think about planting data, if you're looking for a great centralized point for some production or planting reporting, we can go into planting and get a really good idea of, hey, here's this field was planted, here's how many acres, here's my average population, and here's the last date I planted it on. So if you're looking for a place to come in and get some planting reports as you look to report your planting dates for crop insurance purposes, great place to come in here and do this. Up in the right hand corner, you've got the share button. You can create a PDF or an Excel file to be able to export that data out of FieldView to have those views that you see there. You can also break it down by hybrid and by planter as well. Then as we move through the season, if you want to look at if you're collecting application data in FieldView, a really great spot to be able to come in and not only look by field and how many acres you've applied by field, but also by tank mix. So application would be what you name that application, and then you assign products to that tank mix. And then as we do analysis by product, this would break it down by each product, how many acres of that product you've sprayed, how many total gallons, your average rate, etc. The ability to come in and break it down by some of that data as well. But let's go ahead and look at yield. Again, here's just an example of a high-level overview of your yield data by farm. And so yield analysis does a really good job of kind of that high-level overview of your operation. So right now we're looking at corn data from 2017. So I can come in here and I can say, hey, we harvested about 1,080 acres in 2017 of corn. Here it is by field. So I can see by field, I can see what each field averaged. Then over here, you'll see this line down, this vertical line that shows me my farm average. And so I can see which fields are above and which fields are below average. Then as we move from left to right across the screen, I can come in here and click on hybrid. And then it will start to break down my yield by hybrid. Okay, so this is step one in why it is important to have as much of your data in one place as possible. If I do not have my planting data in FieldView, but I have my yield data, I won't be able to do yield by hybrid without my planting data. It would just tell me missing hybrid, and I wouldn't be able to break it down. So having that planting data in and having it accurately broke down by hybrid or variety is going to be important as you look to start analyzing yield data. Then as we continue to move across the screen, I can go to soils. Really great way to come in and start to think about product placement. So as you can see which soil types are the highest performing. You can scroll down and see which ones are the lowest performing. And you can even sort several different ways, right? So I can sort by either the least amount of acres that I have of a certain soil type or the most. And so traditionally, I like to kind of come in and sort by, hey, what are the soil types that we have the most of? Because those are the places where I'm going to be able to make the most impact as I start to think about product placement and product placement decisions. So as I come in here, I can see I've got a Clearmont silt loam. That's the majority soil type on our farm. It is above our farm average, so things are going well there. If I wanted to, I can click on this particular soil type. So anywhere you see an arrow in FieldView, you can always drill deeper into that data. So if I click on that arrow, it's going to come in and it's going to tell me which field or fields I have that particular soil type in. So if I wanted to see just for a certain field, I could click on there. So if I clicked on this Coon & Kramer farm, I could go in and it's going to tell me on that farm, in that soil type, I had these three hybrids. So then I can start to see, based off this information between these three hybrids, all of them performed very well. But in this particular instance, there's about a 30 bushel per acre difference between 64.35 and 61.54. So even though 61.54 was no slouch, there's a clear advantage to me placing 64.35 in this particular soil type in this environment. So those are the things I start to think about. So a really great way to come in and get a high level overview of that data across your farm, and really start to understand and look at some of that information. Now, as we back up, let's go into this map option that we see right here. Now, if you're using the FieldView Cab app to collect data through the 2020 or the FieldView Drive, this would be the screen with which you would use to collect that data in the cab. But it can also be used for analysis post-planting, post-harvest, post-application, etc. And so what you see here, this is a soybean yield map from last year on our farm. And when it comes to soybeans, we've really been trying to figure out how to kind of take that next step in terms of yield. So it feels like we can consistently be in that 60 to 65 bushel per acre farm average. But as we look to do different things, we've kind of feel like we've hit a ceiling, as you might call it, in terms of getting to that 70 or 75 bushel per acre threshold. And so been trying some different things. And so last year, we actually did some fungicide trials. Now, when it comes to fungicides, my father-in-law is a firm believer in fungicides, and we spray every acre of corn and beans every year. And so it wasn't fungicide versus no fungicide. We actually did some trials where we, on several soybean fields, where we did two fungicide applications. Our normal one, which in this case was done around mid-August, just because we didn't start planting till about this time last year. And then we did an earlier one that was mid-July, and that would have been the one that we didn't typically do. And that would have been targeted towards some specific things. So in our case, white mold. We're starting to see some white mold pressure coming in. So we wanted to do an earlier season application targeted towards white mold to see if maybe that has been part of our limiting factor. And so that's what I'm going to walk you through here today as an example of, hey, how do I go in and start to understand and analyze this data to say, was that fungicide application profitable? Is it something we should look at continuing to do in the future? And so that's where we're going to go from here. So as you can see, I've got my yield map pulled up, and so looks great, but without additional data, not a lot of information that I can glean from just this map. So as we go up here to this right-hand corner, you'll notice this box that has 6 buttons in it. The first one I'll direct your attention to is this one that looks like an open book right now. If I click on that, it will take me into what we call split screen mode. So now on the right-hand side of the screen, I have my yield map, and then on the left-hand side, I actually have an application map. So this is the early season application that we have not historically done. And so as you can see, I have an application map of where I applied this fungicide, which I did not apply to the whole field. Now, if I drop this box down right here, it's going to give me some more map layer options for applications. So our other application would be under this soy fungicide 1. And so if I wanted to, just to confirm, here is our traditional application where we applied Delaro in this case to the entire field there in mid-August. And so just to show you that for example purposes. But let's back up and let's go into this July application of ProLine targeted towards white mold in our case. And so now I've got my yield map. and I've got my application maps pulled up. And so I really want to know, all right, hey, this particular area of the field I know had 2 fungicides, whereas the rest of the field only had 1. Okay, so how do I easily go in and start to understand the yield difference between those 2 different areas? And so that is where our tool that we call Field Region Report becomes very useful. So back up here in this corner of these 6 boxes, this lower left-hand box that has the 3 lines with the arrow coming out of it, I call it our more options box, will give you these 5 different options. Down at the bottom, one of those says create a field region. So we're going to click on create a field region. Now it's going to give me 3 options in terms of how I want to create a field region. So the first option is freehand. And so freehand is simply the ability to come in and literally draw any shape you want. And it's going to tell you the yield data inside that shape in that area. The second option for creating a field region that I'm going to show you is called select pass. And so the select pass feature lets you come in and say, hey, I want to know only yield data for this 35-foot swath from the soybean platform, or maybe it's an 8 or a 12 row corn head. You can come in here and you can pick, and it will align it directly to that combine pass or that planter pass or that application pass and give you that data for it within there. For this example, I'm going to use the polygon feature. So create a polygon allows you to simply come in and draw a polygon over a certain area. So the first one I'm going to draw, since I know where I applied fungicide 2 times, I'm going to draw my first polygon over this particular area of the field. Okay, so I know that there's 2 fungicides in this area. So then once I get this box where I'm comfortable with it being inside that application area, I'm going to come down here in this bottom right hand corner and I'm going to click done. Now what it's going to do is it's going to go in and it's going to pull that information out for within that box. And so as we can see here, there's 7.4 acres in this particular region, and our average yield was around 71 bushel to the acre. Okay, you'll notice there's some additional information that is available as part of a field region report. And so first one being variety. So if you've got your planting data in here, you're going to get your hybrid or your yield by variety or hybrid. Now this data was collected with a FieldView drive, and so I've got the option to track seed treatment information. And then also gives me some soil types, population. So if you did a variable rate population, it would break it down. This was planted at a static rate, so no population in here, or no script in here. And then by elevation and by planting date as well. So planting date's a very useful feature, especially if you've got multiple planting dates. I know we've got a few farms this year that we've got multiple planting dates on, so that'll be a valuable feature this fall as we look to analyze data. But we're going to come back up here. A couple other features I'll draw your attention to is create PDF. So if you wanted to create this report and be able to print it off of this particular area, you could do so. And you can also save the region. So I'm going to go ahead and save this one. You can type notes in here and you can rename it. So I'm going to name this region Delaro plus Proline because there were 2 fungicides in this particular area, and then I'm going to hit save. So now as you can see, it will save that box or that region in your account, so then you can view it across all the devices in your operation that are logged into this account. Then what we're going to do is we're going to come back and we're going to draw another field region right next to that one, because we know, hey, in that one we had 2 fungicides. Now we want to know what was my yield data where I only had 1. So I'm going to come directly to the east of that particular area. I'm going to draw a new polygon. Okay, so I'm going to get it in here. I'm going to come down here to the corner and I'm going to click done. Okay, so again, same information. This time we've got 5 acres and our average yield was 64.1. So as we start to think about that data, so let's go ahead and save this region and let's call this Delaro only. Okay, I've now got both of my regions in my account. So let's do some analysis. Okay, so we're going to start back on the 2 fungicide region. So I click on the box. It's going to pull that information up. So again, 71 bushel to the acre, and then the region where I only had 1, 64.1. Okay, so that's a difference. We'll call it 6 bushels, or excuse me, 7 bushels in this case, so 71 and 64. We're going to call it 7 bushel to the acre. And let's say we sold those beans for $9. Okay, we're just going to use an easy number for math. So that's $63 an acre difference in terms of revenue. Now we've got to take our cost out of that equation. So let's say we used our sprayer. We applied this. So let's just say it cost us $20 the acre for that second fungicide application. So even after I take my cost out, I am still $43 net profit on that second fungicide application as a return on investment. So $43 return on investment for that second fungicide application. So now because I had the ability to come in and know where I applied and where I didn't, I can come in and start to use that data to make decisions as we move forward. And so now you got to start thinking about, okay, how are we going to use this information here in 2020, right? So we got majority of our bean crop planted, and so as things move along, got to start thinking about, hey, how do we manage in-season risk, or how do we start thinking about protecting yield potential? And so we're going to start having those conversations around, hey, I don't think we'll do every acre of soybeans with 2 fungicide applications just because we just did some limited trials last year. But I bet we do more trials this year than we did last year, trying to see if there is a year-over-year benefit to this multi-fungicide application in our soybeans. And so, really, just an example of, hey, how can I be using my data in FieldView to make decisions on my farm and my operation as we move forward. And so I'll pause there for just a second, Valerie, if there are any questions that have come across in reference to anything that we've talked about to this point.
Seth, thank you. I do have kind of a question, I guess, looking at soil as a factor here in your results. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, how soil may or may not be a factor in what you're seeing here.
Yeah, no, great question. And so, yeah, as I mentioned, in the field region report, you can break it down by soil types, but I'm going to back up just one second. So this is another important, as to why you need as much data in your account as possible. So I'm going to come over here to the side where I have a yield map. I'm going to drop that box down. So I've got additional yield layers I can look at, or I can hit the back arrow, and it's going to take me into kind of like a summary of the year. So whether that's planting or in season or harvest or base layers, I'm going to click on base layers. And so for every field that you map in FieldView, we will load the soil Surgo data for that particular field. Now I also have a layer in here that says soil test. So if you do have grid sampled soil test data, you can load that into your account. And Carl will talk about how to do that here in just a little bit. But we do load Surgo data automatically in your account. So if I wanted to, I can come in here and I can break this down by soil type. So I can, get an idea of what the soil types in this field look like. And so as I can see, there are some soil type variabilities in here. Now for this particular example, the majority of these two regions I've drawn are predominantly these 2 soil types. So you got the one in the red and the one in the yellow that really make up the area of it. Okay, so that tells me that should be very similar. But then if we go back and we do a field region report, we can get even more granular and break it down fungicide by soil type. And so let's look at this one first, where we have 2 fungicides. And so I've got the Clearmont silt loam as one of my soil types. And so the average in that area was 71. I've also got the Avonberg, and the average yield was 71. Now, if I jump over to the area where I only applied 1 fungicide, it's going to do the same thing. Now, I've got 3 soil types in this particular instance. Now, the one's only 0.4 acres, but we're comparing apples to apples. So in this instance, rather than being 71 bushel to the acre, the Clearmont silt loam is 65.6. and the Avonberg is 65.3. So consistently a 6 to 7 bushel per acre yield difference, even when we compare soil type to soil type within those particular regions to show that, hey, the main difference between these 2 areas because we had the same variety, we had the same population, we had the same plant date, and even when we break it down as granular as by soil type, we still see that there was a difference in terms of yield production. But that's an excellent question.
Thank you, Seth. Thank you for explaining that. I'm not seeing any other questions at this time. So if you're ready to transition to Carl, then if you have any other questions, certainly post them and we can still address them throughout the remainder of our webinar. But Seth, I think we're ready to transition now.
Okay, if you want to pass him the ball, go for it.
Okay, Carl, you should have received the ball now. Thank you, Seth.
Thank you.
Okay, you can take it away, Carl, when you're ready.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Valerie. Like Valerie said, my name's Carl Butenhoff, and I'm a field product specialist up north in Minnesota and Wisconsin. And I'm going to spend the rest of the hour walking through, what options we have to get all of our data loaded up into our Climate FieldView platform. Seth did a great job of talking through, once we have all of our data in the platform, what types of decisions we can make with that data, what kind of analyses we can do, and really start to make decisions that hopefully impact our bottom line on our operations. And like Seth mentioned, there's a couple really seamless ways that we can begin to get data into the platform. The first one of those would be the what we call our FieldView drive that looks like a black, hockey puck looking device that plugs into the CAN bus of our equipment. And that will allow us to, via Bluetooth, wirelessly stream data to our FieldView account. The other option to seamlessly transfer data would be if you're running a Precision 2020 monitor in your equipment. That option also gives us seamless wireless data transfer into our account. Now, obviously, there's a lot of us that aren't running either of those platforms, or we're working with equipment that may not be compatible for that wireless data transfer. And that's really what I'm going to focus on today, is what options do we have if we're running equipment that's not compatible with those two options. So I'm really going to focus on what we call our data inbox. And so the first thing you're going to want to do to get to the data inbox is log on to climate.com. You can see here I'm already logged into my account, and this is the main landing page here. You can see 4 different options across the top. So fields, which I'm currently on, that just lists an overview of where all your fields are at. You have prescriptions, data, and then the final tab here is called import. So I'm going to click on that import tab, and that's going to take us to our landing page of, again, what we call our data inbox. Now this is where we have the ability, if you look across the top here, to upload all these different types of data files. So we can see we're currently on fields portion, so you can upload field boundaries via the data inbox. If you don't already have fields created in your account, you can just upload those boundaries. You can upload planting data, which I will walk through step by step in a few minutes how to do that. We can upload prescriptions. So whether that be planting prescriptions or, for example, a variable rate nitrogen prescription, we can upload those here as well. Seth talked about application data, specifically fungicide applications. We can upload that to the platform, as well as basically any other application pass across the field, whether it's liquid nitrogen, any other fertilizer, fungicide, etc. We also have the ability to upload imagery. So a lot of us are are working with maybe our local agronomist or retailer, or maybe we have our own drone that we like to fly our fields to get a bird's eye view of our operation, especially after maybe a windstorm comes through to check for green snap. We have the ability to upload those imagery files as well, so we can overlay those not only with the satellite imagery that FieldView provides several times per month in our accounts, but also we can at the end of the season split screen that drone imagery with yield maps and any other map layer that we have in the system. So a really nice option there as well. Harvest data, so yield data, obviously is something that we can upload to the system. And then Seth also mentioned and briefly talked about soil test data, which we can upload as well. And then the final tab here is just called imported shape files, which is kind of just a catch-all for general shape files that don't fall into one of these other buckets. So as you can see, we have a very wide array of compatibility for uploading different data types, different data layers into your account to make sure you really maximize the types of analysis and decisions that you can make on your operation to hopefully see some value and start making decisions that are going to impact your bottom line. Now, before we get started, I just want to point out this hyperlink here that says check your file compatibility. Now, before you start uploading just random data that you've pulled off equipment and spending time doing that, it's a great idea to come here and check this this document. So I'm going to click on this, and this is going to take us to what we call our knowledge center in our support area of our climate website. And Valerie and Mindy, our learning and development specialists, do a fantastic job of keeping this knowledge center up to date. Obviously, there's always a lot of work we're doing in the background to test compatibility with different equipment, with new versions of equipment, and they do a great job of keeping all these lists updated. So if you're not sure if your monitor or equipment is compatible with uploading data via the data inbox, this is where you can come take a look. So just a really nice table. You can scroll down in this table and find your equipment or your monitor you're running. For example, here we can take a look at Ag Leader Integra. It's a pretty common monitor. And you can see these 4 check marks here are corresponding to the fact that we have the ability to upload yield as applied, as planted, and field boundary files from an Ag Leader Integra monitor. Another important thing to point out here is this file extensions column, which basically just gives us what we want to look for in the naming convention of the data files. So once you download that data off your monitor and open up those folders on your computer, you're going to want to double check that the end of those file names are .ag data or .ag setup. That will tell you that you're compatible to go ahead and upload to our platform. And then we have what's called the status column here. You'll notice all of these say live. So that means that our engineering teams have successfully gone through the process of uploading data from those monitors without any bugs or issues. And just, I want to point out, if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll notice, maybe you have a new type of monitor that's not very common or something that has just hit the marketplace. We also have a list of monitors that are in beta testing. So you can see here under status, it says beta. Now we have successfully been able to load that data into our FieldView platform, but the beta status means that we're still basically continuing to test uploading those different data layers to make sure everything is stable and accurate. Finally, here I just want to point out another really great resource. You can see the last column is guide, and for most of the common monitors, we have a PDF guide. So I'm going to click on this for the Integra monitor, and that's going to download a PDF document here that's going to have really nice screenshots, step-by-step instructions that maybe it's a brand new, maybe you're brand new to Ag Leader and you're not familiar with how to export your data or find your way around that monitor to get to where you need to export that data onto a flash drive. These PDF guides are specific to each one of these monitors that are listed on that compatibility sheet. And you can just come in here and there's screenshots and step-by-step instructions that you can simply just walk through how to get that data off that monitor and onto your computer. So just a really nice resource to save you some time before you start trying to upload data into the system to make sure you're compatible, as well as give you some step-by-step instructions how to walk through that. So now that we've checked to confirm that we have compatibility to upload the data into the data inbox, we can start pulling that data in. So the first thing I want to point out is that we have the ability to seamlessly transfer data from John Deere Operations Center. So if you have a My John Deere account, you can connect that account to your FieldView account and bring that data in without having to download that data manually off, say, your 2600 or 4600 series monitor. So if you just go ahead and click connect an account, it only takes a minute or so to walk through a couple steps to connect your accounts. So after clicking on connect your account, you'll see it takes us to our account settings. If you scroll to the bottom, you'll see a section called connected accounts. And right now you can see My John Deere is not connected. So if you go to the right here, click on the blue connect button, this will bring you to your My John Deere login. And just to point out, these credentials that you have to type in here are for your John Deere, not your climate. So if you have different John Deere login credentials, make sure to enter those here. And then go ahead and sign in to your John Deere account. And then it's going to pop up a page here that asks for your permission. That are you willing to connect your John Deere account to climate? If you're okay with that, you can go ahead and click the allow button. Once you do that, it's going to flip you back over to your climate FieldView account settings. And now what we can see here in the bottom is under connected accounts, we have My John Deere, and it shows the last synced date. One more thing that is important to do before that data is going to start flowing into your data inbox is you can see that right now it says retrieve field data is off. We need to turn that on. So if you click on edit settings here and click on, and then it gives you the option to, if you have multiple organizations within that My John Deere account, you can select individual organizations within that account, or you can bring in all organizations. Once you make your selections, go ahead and click the save button. And now we get this blue informational pop-up that says the data in your My John Deere account will start to sync within the next hour. And just like everything with uploading data to the platform or any platform, it depends on your internet connection. It depends on, how many fields and data layers you're trying to import, as far as how long it will take to sync in. But just a really nice feature that allows us to pull in that data from our John Deere account if you don't want to manually download that data off the monitor. So I'm going to flip back over to the data inbox by clicking on the import button here at the top. And now I'm going to walk through step by step how to upload really any data. What I'm going to walk through is basically the same for any data we're uploading. For today's example, I'm going to walk through how to upload planting data to the data inbox. But again, this is the same process as if you're uploading, application data, imagery, soil test, etc. The first thing that we have to do before clicking on upload files is, you can see here it says field files need to be uploaded as a zip file. If you're not sure how to do that, you can again click on this blue button that will take you to our knowledge center and show you how to zip your files. I'll just show you guys real quick how to do that if you're not familiar with it. So you can see on my desktop here I have this is just a field name full of field files. You can see in this one we have .dat files, which come from Precision 2020 Monitor. And if we were going to try to upload this as a .dat file, that would not work. The data inbox wouldn't even allow you to select that file to upload. So we need to zip that folder first that has the data in it. So in order to do that, you select the folder and you right click on it with your mouse. And I'm working on a MacBook today. So for a MacBook, you'll see an option here that says compress and then the name of the folder in quotes. If I do that, it's going to compress that into a zipped file. Now we can upload this zip file into the data inbox. Now, if you're working on a PC, the process is the same. You right click on that folder with your data in it, but instead of saying compress, there's going to be an option that says send to. If you hover over that send to option and select zipped file, it will zip that folder the same way it did here. So that's the first step to make sure your files are ready to upload to the platform. Once you do that, you can come back to your data inbox and go ahead and click on upload file. And that's going to pull up the browser here so you can select which file you want to upload. Now, you just hover over it, click it, and then you'll see this blue open button here once you select your file. Again, just to show you, if I didn't zip this file and just go into one of these folders and try to select individual DAT files, you can see it won't let me select those. So that's why they have to be zipped. For today's example, for the sake of time and due to my internet speed, I have already preloaded this data into my account. So I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel here and then just show you what it would look like once you click that upload button. So this is the screen you'll get once you click upload, and you'll have a gray circle that spins here. Again, depending on file size and internet speed, this can take anywhere from a couple seconds to several minutes. Once it's complete, it'll say 100% complete, and then the next screen you'll see will be this. It will say your file is processing. And again, depending on your internet speed and data file size, this can take up to 30 minutes. But what's nice about this is you can close this screen and let that file process in the background, and you can still work in your account as that file processes. Okay, so once that file is done processing, you'll get a green success banner up at the top here that says the file is successfully processed. And you'll notice, depending on what type of data you pulled in, you'll see a number next to, in this case, planting data. So I uploaded 6 files, 6 individual planting files. And if you click on the planting tab, you can see those 6 files listed. So a couple things to point out here. I only uploaded 6 files here today, but many times we're working with hundreds of individual files. And so if you look at the top, there's 6 different filters. For example, maybe you only want to see a certain hybrid. You can select by hybrid. You can select by crop type if you're working with corn, soybeans, maybe alfalfa data. You can look under just a individual farm, or if you're uploading data from multiple years. So really simple ways to just filter down to what you want to look at specifically. Now, the most important thing I would say you want to do at this point is just go through each of these individual files and QC it to make sure your crop type and your hybrid name is correct. So if it is not, you can click on the gray arrow next to in this case, corn, and then you can, maybe this was supposed to be alfalfa. You can change that to the correct crop. Same thing for hybrid. If you notice, this hybrid, is not a hybrid that even exists. It looks like I was probably trying to type in hybrid name 21445 in this example. You can type that in and then hit update, and you can see here the hybrid name was updated to what the correct hybrid name should be. So just a couple important points to QC before we actually import the data into our account. And then a couple other things. You'll see an action column that here it says import data into existing field. That is because I already have field boundaries that are associating with these planting layers. If you don't have field boundaries associated with the data you're importing, it will say import data into new field. And then you can go ahead, you can see here in field assignment, again, I have field boundaries already in this field, and it's associating with that field name. So once you have QC'd everything and everything looks good, you can go ahead and either click this select all button at the top, and it'll select all the files there, or you can individually select certain files to upload. I'm just going to select one of these so it goes through quick, and hit import. And you'll see this screen here. Again, depending on what you're importing and your internet speed, it might take a couple seconds like it did here, or several minutes. But you can see one file was successfully imported. Now I only have 5 files left in my inbox. And now if I go click on the FieldView button up at the top to go back to my landing page and scroll down to that field, track to west here, I can start to see that data starting to pull across. So again, depending on your internet speed and how much data you're pulling in, this may take a while to start pulling through. But then, like Seth covered, you can start to use these different data layers in many different ways to start to really make decisions on your operation.
Hey, Carl.
Yes.
As we're approaching time, someone just posted a question I'd like to pass to you briefly. This individual says that they're using a new Gen 3 2020 with their iPad. Some fields did not record some passes to the iPad, and they are complete in the 2020. So if the individual exports the 2020 files and then uploads them to Climate, will they fill in?
Yes, great question. And Seth, if you want to help me out if I miss anything here, we have known bugs this planting season with Gen 3 2020 with data not all coming across. And so if you weren't updated to the latest software on both the FieldView Cab app as well as your 2020 Gen 3 monitor, there may have been some issues as you're describing here. And yes, you can absolutely pull that data manually if it's not syncing over and upload it via the data inbox. And then just it'll warn you as you upload it into your inbox if it's duplicate data as to whether or not you want to upload that data. And so you can select the data, for example, in your data inbox that did not come across wirelessly.
Yeah, so just to follow up on that, Eric, I see that was your question that came across. If you could, if you can privately, or if you want to put it in the general, send us your email that you have associated with your FieldView account, and we'll just have someone reach out with the best next steps forward. But like Carl said, so accessory sync, which is the ability for the data to sync from the 2020 over to the FieldView Cab app. There's a couple of those 2020 versions for the Gen 3s where there were some accessory sync issues. And so we've got actually some steps where you can go in for those fields that you're missing data or partial data for, and you can rebuild that data on your the SD card for your FieldView module, and then they will push that data back over into FieldView. And so that would be my suggestion, rather than manually exporting and then uploading. This way will ensure no duplicate planting data will come across. But if you want to send us your contact info, we'll make sure that we reach out with those steps and get someone in touch with you. But no, that's a great question.
Great, thanks for that, Seth. Valerie, I will kick it back over to you, Valerie, to wrap up. Again, thank you everyone for jumping on this morning. Really appreciate the time, and hopefully you found a couple valuable nuggets of information. And we'll have Valerie wrap it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Seth. Thank you both. Yes, folks, thank you for joining us this morning. Really quick, if you have any other questions regarding topics from today's webinar or other related issues, there's a few different ways, again, that you could have those questions answered. For one, you can go to support.climate.com, which is our Knowledge Center. And Knowledge Center is an amazing resource that collectively includes all kinds of articles and videos arranged by topic and category. You can search very specific keywords, like, the name of your equipment, for example, in the search bar. If you want to find something very specific to your question, you can look at seasonally relevant videos or documents. And again, clicking on different categories by topic as well, based on the season or based on your issue. And so that's one resource available to you. Another resource that we have is our support line, and our support folks are amazing. You can email them at support@climate.com or call in at 888-924-7475, and they will also be a great resource to you to answer questions. For more information, of course, you can visit climate.com. We have our social media pages that include information, and we can go to our YouTube page. We have videos, of course, related to various topics, but this recording in particular will be available on YouTube eventually and will be shared with you as well as a participant of this webinar. And so with that, I've given my final commercial. You'll be receiving a survey emailed to you to address any other issues or things that you would like to suggest to us for future webinars. We thank you for your time. We thank you for your questions, and we hope that you have a great growing season. We look forward to seeing you again on another webinar for harvest. We can proceed to some of the final slides for our webinar.
Maybe you only want to see a certain hybrid. You can select by hybrid. You can select by crop type if you're working with corn, soybeans, maybe alfalfa data. You can look under just a individual farm, or if you're uploading data from multiple years.